All right, everybody. Wild day in the NBA. Only gets crazier when you think waking up to Luka Doncic being traded, nothing else could happen on a day like this. Celtics have a 26-point comeback in which we collectively almost pulled the cord on this whole operation altogether. De'Aaron Fox at the end of this game gets traded. We're still waiting with some of those details. We get a lot to talk to, so let's get into it here. It's Green with Envy. We're doing a post-game special. We're live right now on YouTube and on Twitter. So if you guys are joining us here, we're going to be updating everything that's going on. Who knows what else might break? It's Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up? What up? What up? Welcome in to another edition of Green with Envy, the second edition of Green with Envy, here on what has been an eventful Sunday in the NBA. Luka Doncic to the Lakers, Anthony Davis to the Mavericks. Boston Celtics beat the Philadelphia 76ers 118-110 off a 26-point comeback that looked dead in the water halfway through the third quarter. End of the game, De'Aaron Fox is going to the San Antonio Spurs to team up with Victor Wembanyama. Zach LaVine is going to the Sacramento Kings. And I say all this before I even welcome in my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, one and only, Greg Manakis. Greg, what a day.
Hell of a day. We're going to talk about the Celtics right now, but I do, once the details come out of this Fox trade, Alex, if you could just keep us in the loop there in the chat, if you could just let us know if any details come out, if it was a 3-team, it looks like it's a multi-team trade, right? So we're going to have to see all the pieces that were involved here. It's at least the Bulls, the Kings, and the Spurs, right? So maybe there's going to be more teams facilitating that deal. We will see. But I mean, we've had 12 hours now officially, Will, since you woke up to think about the Luka Doncic trade before we talk about the Celtics game, where I literally stopped watching for a couple of minutes before
I know. We got to talk about that. Yeah.
Any thoughts on the Luka trade now that you've had 12 hours to let it kind of sit with you?
I think it makes even less sense. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like we were together earlier. We had a friend's birthday party. Shout out to our girl Lynn Murphy. We had a little donut taste test, which, by the way, dude, I'm still like in like some type of sugar pre-diabetic like tingly coma. I don't know what's happening. I'm doing some intermittent fasting right now. Like post, since New Year's basically. And I've been a little bit off with bachelor party last weekend, had a few dinners and stuff that kind of threw off my timing. And so I was trying to get back and like finish eating by like 6:30 tonight. And I was like, all right, I gotta get back on track here to like a normal, like intermittent fasting schedule. And I was like, I just need just one more thing. I know I'm gonna get hungry later. And my wife Lauren had bought some Girl Scout cookies earlier in the week. And I was like, you know what, whatever. It's just like 2 cookies. Let me just pop these in real quick. I think it reset my body back to this morning of eating like 12 donuts or whatever. I've just been like tingling for like 45 minutes right now. It's very strange feeling. So I forget what the question was. I've just started rambling.
Are you good? Yeah, you started when you were doing your intro. I was like, I don't know if Will can handle this podcast right now. My question was, you've had 12 hours to think about the Luka trade. Have you come up with any new conclusions other than it's still in utter madness?
The point of me getting through all the sugar coma nonsense was that I talked about it with you and our other friend Liptak, and we couldn't come up with anything good. We separated ourselves to have a discussion, and we still couldn't come up with a reason. And I don't think I've seen anyone that has. And if anything, I don't know if you've seen some of the clips from the Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd press conference. Jason Kidd looks just like he looked distraught. He didn't look good. It didn't look good. And Nico Harrison's given about 3 to 4 different explanations. I don't know why he keeps talking into a mic. I feel like he just needs to shut the fuck up. Like I can't.
Yeah, Mavs fans are pissed. I don't know if you've done any like digging onto Mavs blogs or anything like that, but they are not happy.
Our guy Kirk is going through it. Who we had on the podcast. He literally tweeted out at one point. He's like, I'm just getting less and less professional as the day goes on. Talking about all of his tweets.
All right, we've got the details from our guy Alex. He says Spurs, they're getting De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin, Kings, they're getting Zach LaVine, Sidi Kisiko, 3 first-round picks, the 2025 Charlotte, 2027 Spurs, 2031 T-Wolves. So they get that T-Wolves pick that came over in the draft trade for young boy. What's his name? The little guard. Dillingham. 3 second-round picks also going there. 2025 Chicago, 2028 Denver, 2028. They're getting their own pick back. And the Bulls are getting Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, shout out to our guy Adam Taylor, and their own 2025 pick via the Spurs. That is the full trade.
Damn.
You know who they did not give up, Will? What name is not in that? Man. Who is not in that deal?
That's incredible for the Spurs. Incredible work for the Spurs. You know, it was funny, Greg, as we were watching this Celtics-Sixers game, and for the first 2.5 to 3 quarters, Tyrese Maxey was the unquestioned best player in this game. And Tyrese Maxey is awesome, right? But him and De'Aaron Fox, Max is a better shooter, but they're the 2 of the 3 to 4 fastest guys in the NBA, right? And part of when Embiid is out there with Maxey is his ability to pick and pop, and also it's like the slow developing part of his game, and then the speed. Like, it's really hard to go back and forth. Wemby's not necessarily certainly not as slow as Embiid, but he can pop, and he just, Wemby's just a freak. And as I was watching this game, I was like, if I'm the Spurs and I'm watching this and it's going to take Stephon Castle, I think I do it, because I'm just looking at this speed at which Maxey, who's playing without anyone, like the Sixers were without 5 of their main 8 guys tonight. And Maxey was unbelievable for stretches of this game. I was sitting there thinking about De'Aaron Fox and what this is going to look like with Victor Wembanyama. I was like, in my head, I was like, I would just do it, man. Like, I know I like Castle. We don't really know what we know what Fox is for the next 6 years, which is what you can kind of look at. And for the Spurs to pull this off, no Castle, no, even Devin Vassell, who I really like. I think Devin Vassell is a great, pure, kind of like your stereotypical 2 guard, right? That can stretch or deep. Yeah. He's solid decent on defense. Like, I like Devin Vassell. I think he fits really well. And so you keep that with everything else. Good job, San Antonio. Unbelievable.
They just gave up Zach Collins and Trey Jones and picks.
Yeah.
And that got them De'Aaron Fox.
It's a great move by them, man. They've got Wemby, and you've got Fox, you've got Castle, they didn't give up any. They didn't even give up Sohan, right? And like Sohan's like a very valuable defense.
Eldon Johnson.
Who's finally turning back. He was a gold medalist, man. That's one of my favorite things. He was a gold medalist just a couple of years ago. It's unbelievable work by the Spurs just to give up essentially picks, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins. Unbelievable.
It's a good deal. Good deal. Yeah. I mean, being down here in Austin, that's going to be a fun team to check out. We definitely got to get tickets for the games in Austin this year now.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, I mean, okay, let's go back to the Celtics game. We can continue to talk about the trade madness as it continues to trickle in. We called it earlier when the Luka trade happened. We were like, oh, this is just opening up the floodgates. Like, there are going to be tons of deals now. I was just trying to think of all the craziest deals possible. And initially, getting into the Celtics, what I was going to do coming into this pod, if the Celtics had gotten blown out by the G League, Sixers and Tyrese Maxey, I was gonna come on and just talk about how the Celtics should trade Jason Tatum, but like play it seriously, like I was a Mavs fan. But anyway, Celtics come back. At one point, I was about to turn off the TV because they just didn't have any energy. They were getting absolutely cooked by Ricky Council the fourth, the Williams rookie. I don't even know his first name. Like, there was just all these guys I didn't even know who was on the court at times.
Ricky Council sounds like a made up video game, right? Like if you play a video game for too long and they just have to start making up players getting drafted. Ricky Council the fourth sounds like that type of guy.
Exactly. I wonder what the first 3 of them did. But anyways, I think with the Celtics team, this just shows you, like, they really only have to play one great quarter of basketball, which is like the scary thing with the team, because they know they really only have to play one great quarter of basketball. Sometimes it happens in the first quarter. Sometimes it happens in the fourth quarter. Today it happened about 15 minutes of great basketball when they were down by 24 points or whatever. And then they got it to 14 going into the fourth quarter, right? They played pretty much mistake-free basketball from that point forward.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like you said, you gave up on the game, and I mean, I was right there with you. Like, I was watching, but it was almost a hate watch at that point, right? Like, it was here we go again. Because even when you go back to, Friday night in the game winner from Tatum against the Pelicans, that was another game that should have never got there. Like that game was, I actually that night I was sitting there and a couple friends wanted to go out to grab a drink, and I was like, I don't know. I should probably watch this like Celtics game. Then Zion got ruled out right before. I was like, all right, let's go. Screw it. Like this team's just gonna, especially with Zion out, this team's just gonna frustrate me the whole night, whether we win or not. Went back and watched the game. Very frustrating. A lot of missed free throws and just these mental mistakes. And you were saying it again in this game, right? Like it felt like just a spillover of what's been these last several weeks. And whether it's mental mistakes, miscommunications on defense, Drew Holiday just taking an extra dribble when there was 2 seconds left, like just these little things that just didn't happen. And I think tonight, even though, as you mentioned, this is the G League Sixers, right? Like they're missing a whole list of guys: Embiid, Martin, Paul George, Drummond, Eric Gordon, like the list goes on. But that last 15 minutes, Greg, is the first time in a long time, and I'm trying not to make this just results based, where it felt like last year, or it felt like the team that I remember, that I was like, yo, don't sleep on this team. This team will come at you. And something that I think really stood out to me is in that last 15 or so minutes, the assertiveness on defense with which they were helping and recovering, like with intention. And there was like several moments of that I'm just like, and I get it. They can't do that night to night with, how all the runs they've had, Olympics, all the stuff we've talked about. But to not feel like I've seen that really all season. And then this 15 minutes, like it just really stood out to me that it just viscerally felt a lot more like the Celtics team that I know. And coming up with this massive week, Cavs, new look Mavs, and the Knicks, like that's, and the Spurs are around the corner after that. Like with that stretch coming up, it feels really good, even versus a depleted Sixers team, to see that and make this big comeback.
Yeah, and the word aura has been thrown out there on the internet. Drew Carter's been using it, talking about Jason Tatum and the aura that he has. But he's starting to play like the MVP, and he's starting to play with a lot of confidence, especially after hitting that game-winning shot. Like tonight, it just felt like in the fourth quarter, he kind of just couldn't miss. And there was nobody on the court that could stop him. He was hitting the little mid-range. He was hitting the three-pointer. He was getting to the rim whenever he wanted. Aside from that initial possession where he got blocked at the rim, like he was unstoppable.
That was a nice block by that guy too, though. That was a nice defensive play. You know what it was? For the first time in a while, Greg, I feel like we raved so much last year about that Derek White and Jason Tatum 2-man game.
Yeah.
And they went to that a couple times today later. And it felt like it's been a while since you've seen that executed in the way that they did tonight, and that, listen, just feels good. Like enjoy it. Someone that wants to sit out there and tell you that you shouldn't enjoy this. That felt really good, that comeback.
Yeah, it felt really good, and especially a day where the Mavs trade their franchise guy, right? The Kings trade their franchise guy, and just to see our franchise guys stepping up, still in Boston, all the trade talk over the past, 7 years with Tatum and Brown, both of those guys are still standing with one ring in the bank. Like as a Celtics fan, nights like this, you just got to appreciate, because it's not like this in every city. Mavs fans are going through it. I'm telling you,
did
go
you
to
see some of
Mavs
the
Moneyball. I haven't seen much of the footage. I've just read the blogs.
They brought a casket.
Blog culture. They brought a casket for Nico Harrison.
I go to our Twitter page at one point. I retweeted it. They not for Nico. They didn't do it like WWE style, like come out there with like that, but like to memorialize Luka's time. They literally. So we were just there last week. Where the Dirk statue is.
Yeah,
they laid it down at those steps leading up to the Dirk statue, where they brought a full ass casket. And we're having a memorial service. There's a whole protest out there. I saw at one point the Mavericks Instagram, I think, lost 700,000 followers, something crazy like that. Like, to your point, that's a very good point that you bring up, that tonight, despite the slow start, the frustrating start, the beginning struggles, to see all this other chaos, and I'm still checking Twitter just in case something else breaks here, of all these stars that are either wanting out or their teams are scared off by the new CBA, like Brad Stevens, our front office. They're all in. They're doubling down on what Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum bring, and tonight they brought it. They brought it when we needed it the most, and like it was, you were texting me. You were like, I just don't want to come on here and be negative. I but it honestly, like, it's been so frustrating. It's deserving, but I also think the way that they made me feel watching the end of that and heading into this tough week, like that deserves to be praised as well too. And that's where I think we're at right now.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to come on here, like, say the Celtics get blown up by 30 points tonight. Like, on a day when Luka Doncic gets traded, I don't want to come on here and bash the Celtics, right? Like, we're so lucky to still be able to watch this team and to watch these guys that have been homegrown talent. It's just really nice to see. But I just wanted to let you know. So you started talking about the casket. That same energy is on MavsMoneyball.com right now. So I just want to read you some titles.
Please do.
The worst moment in the history of DFW sports is here. That's one title. The Mavericks' return in the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade is laughable, and so is their spin. Mavs Lounge, it's a bit bleak right now. Mavs GM Nico Harrison's press conference after trading Luka Doncic was a total disaster. Nico Harrison's sudden heel turn into a malignant, weaponized incompetence. Everybody on the site is just writing tough, like hit pieces on Nico Harrison. I mean, I don't think this man's gonna have a job, Will. I don't think he's gonna have a job. So it's insane. Hold on, let's bring on Alex right now. I told him he could come on and talk about Luka.
Yeah. Pop on here, Alex. See what you got. Alex, you gotta unmute yourself here. There you go, Alex. What do you got for us? Let's start with Luka and Luka for AD. Let's get your thoughts on that first.
I would say shocking. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. I watched the whole press conference today with the GM. He was like talking about how he knows what players Jason Kidd wants without telling him like what's going on. Like, how does that work? How do you do that?
Were you up last night when this broke? Greg and I were already asleep by the time this happened.
Yeah, I was playing Xbox with my friends, and then I checked my phone, and my friend sent me like 6 text messages like, is this real? Is Shams hacked? And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I didn't think either of those players were tradable in their current spots. Like, because LeBron and AD are so tight. And I mean, this is Luka Doncic. When he's healthy, he's a top 3 player in the NBA. Like,
is there anybody that would have surprised you more than Luka being traded?
Probably Wembanyama if they just got rid of him because they could.
It's like Wembanyama, Jokic, SGA. You know what I mean? Like, those are pretty much the only guys. Yeah, but Giannis has at least been like rumored to get traded, right? But then the Bucks
are almost out of moves, right? Like you could see them being like, listen, we're out of moves. We're just tearing it all down. Like with Luka, and this was part of what Greg and I talked about on the emergency pod, right? Like whatever plan you have right now for 25-year-old Luka, if it fails, you still have ways to reroute your plan and try again. Like you're not out of moves. Like the Bucks are kind of in a tough spot with Giannis. Like the Mavs had plenty of other moves, and one of them should have been surveying other teams. If you're going to make this move, that would be one thing that they probably should have done.
I mean, got a comment here. I'll go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Oh, I mean, like with Luka, if he's on your team, no matter like how bad your team is, I feel like you're always in contention. You're at least always in the playoffs. Like, I mean, they're always around there. He's been to the Western Conference Finals, and last year he brought them to the finals. Before they played the Celtics, Kyrie and Luka were the best backcourt in NBA history. That's what all the TV channels were talking about. That's what all they were saying. And just to give up on him without telling him, I don't know. It makes no sense to me.
I mean, Luka did have to sit through, it was Windhorst, right? Windhorst during the finals, who just came out and just like lambasted him for being out of shape, which was like the irony of all ironies that Brian Windhorst is telling you that you're fat and out of shape. And like that had to feel really bad for Luka. And then the clip resurfaces. I think, Will, you mentioned this earlier of Luka drinking the beer and Michael Finley taking it from him after they clinched the berth to the finals, right? So like clearly the conditioning issue with Luka seems to be the main like reason they decided to trade him. And like I get it to some degree because Luka definitely super doughy. He's always hurt with that calf injury. He hasn't played over 70 games since his rookie year. Like all the things that we're like relearning today that we haven't really thought about because Luka's just so goddamn talented, right? And then when you really think about it, because to the comment here in the chat from Normal Person here, where he says, I honestly think AD could make their D in the paint better, 100%. Kyrie has full control of the offense, AD pick and roll spacing. I think this could be a good move. Maybe in the end, they are stronger now. Like, their defense definitely improves, but to get through the Western Conference gauntlet, you need to have a guy that can take you and transcend like the normal performance of like a Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is a great offensive player, but we saw what happens in Boston when he's the number one option. He's just not that guy. He's like the perfect number two.
Yeah.
AD is also a number two. PJ Washington is a number four, like at best. And like everyone just gets like asked to do a little bit more when their talent doesn't actually allow them to do that. I just don't think it's going to allow them to justify moving on from Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I mean, almost every NBA champion you look at, and there's a handful of exceptions, you have a top 5 guy in the league at that time. Almost all of them do, right? And so and once again, I think it just comes back to if you're going to, which I still insane that you would make this move, you just got to get more back. Like it's just not enough. That's just ultimately what I keep coming back to is, and that's okay. This is what we were talking about earlier today, Greg. Like, even if you're only talking to the Lakers, you didn't even get all of the Lakers shit. Like you still left stuff on the table with them. Like it's just, I mean, all.
What do
of
you
the
think
headlines
that conversation like? How do you think Rob Pelinka convinced him that he only deserved 1 first-round pick? Have you given that any thought, Will or Alex? Like I'm trying to think like how he actually like was able to pull that off. Like, is it, hey, on the open market, Luka probably gets you 7 first-round picks, AD gets you 6, so I'll give you 1.
Yeah, maybe he upsold AD. Like, I don't know. He was like, AD's played so many games over the past 2 years. I don't know. Maybe
it's honestly sorcery or witchcraft. Like those are the most reasonable explanations that I think there can be. Like the fact that you wouldn't even take their 31 first, which when you add Luka to the Lakers, you're already negating likely the value of the 29 pick. So at least give yourself another window. And like this has been pointed out in other places too. You didn't even get the swaps. Like people throw swaps in all the time. Just like, yeah, why not? We'll sweeten the pot and we'll throw a swap because we still get a pick, right? Like, so just on the off chance that maybe, in 27, LeBron's retired, Luka sprains his ankle and he's out for 3 months, and they end up with a top 10 pick. And I don't know, there's maybe one of the Boozer twins. I don't know when they're coming out, but you know what I'm saying? Like how do you not even just get like some insurance? Like just simple shit that you should. I don't know. It's really, really baffling how Pelinka pulled this off, and maybe he deserves more credit. I feel like a lot of people are just pushing this to the negligence of Nico Harrison. Maybe Pelinka does deserve more credit as some type of master negotiator here because it's really hard to wrap your head around. Alex, before we let you go here and we hop into the final couple segments, De'Aaron Fox trade. What do you got for us? Because that literally broke as we were watching the end of the Celtics game. The Michael Grady, the announcer on ESPN, was announcing this had gone down, and I was refreshing Twitter, and then you were nice enough to go ahead and wait for everything to come out. Quick instant take reaction here on De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, Zach LaVine to the Kings.
I love the fit in I love the fit in San Antonio, and it looks like the Kings are trying to rebuild the Bulls. I don't know. Yeah, they got DeRozan.
Good point.
They got LaVine. I just need Lonzo. So
maybe they could get Lonzo. Yeah. Well, appreciate you, Alex. Thanks for coming on, man. Yeah. And if there any other news, happens
keep us posted
in the last 10
here,
minutes of the pod, just let us know.
Do.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting.
The video intern, y'all.
Yeah. The video intern. Alex's last point though about the Kings. So the Kings lose Fox, obviously. Mm-hmm. They get Zach LaVine, who's playing really well. So
one of his best seasons, yeah.
The Kings now, who's their point guard now? Is they just going to run it through Monk? So it's Monk, LaVine, DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Sabonis. Like, there's a world in which they actually aren't much worse.
Yeah, no, I think I think for them, it's like if we're not going to pay Fox, we're adding Levine. This is kind of the argument about like, are the Lakers better
with 4
this year
days
or
before
not?
the
Like,
trade deadline as well, Will. So they could still move Levine if they wanted
right.
to.
They could move Levine, or they could, now they have a bunch of extra picks if they wanted to go maybe get something with another player. Like, they could do that as well. I think for the Kings, it's actually a pretty well done if they were just like, hey, listen, we're not paying De'Aaron Fox, which is another part of the Mavericks thing, which they just decided this is where we draw the line on who deserves a supermax at Luka Doncic. Where, for the Kings, like, they were like, we don't want to pay De'Aaron Fox the max, which I think he's probably worthy of it. But it's at least a more reasonable, like, hey, listen, we've had 7 years of Fox. What have we ever gotten? One playoff appearance and 1 year where the West was kind of fluky with some injuries and we got a 3 seed. We're really still mostly just a play-in team. Are we going to give that guy with all the constraints that come around it?
But anyways, I was talking to somebody recently and they were talking about Chicago sports, and he was from Chicago, and he was talking about how I'm a little flustered right now, but he's talking about how Zach LaVine is just a guy that he wasn't really on board with, and he just wanted him off of the Bulls. But I should probably stop talking.
No, it's all good. I think the point you're making is like, hey, you can finally move on and you get a decent return for him, right? Like, given everything you have here. And I feel like that's got to be a precursor to at least Vucevic and maybe even Lonzo Ball on the move here. And now the Bulls can finally take a full reset, which they probably should have done a year or two ago and moved off to Rose and other guys. But with that, let's go to our couple of segments that we got here, Greg, because honestly, I think it's going to entangle some of this here. So let's just go to in or out, and then we'll do stat of the week after that. I'll start with in or out here. And you already asked me the question of where I was going to go for in and out. I'm still out on this for the Mavericks. That's still where I am. Is I just can't wrap my head around it. But let me ask you this on the pod. I asked you this when we were together earlier. We were talking about like, hey, maybe they would have actually done Jason Tatum for Luka Doncic, and that's certainly the Celtics aren't doing that. But if it were Jaylen Brown and 2 picks for Luka, essentially you're kind of trading the same contract because Luka can't get the full supermax, so it's going to be relatively equal. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it's going to be relatively equal, if not a little bit less than just keeping Jaylen. Like, you might be getting a better contractual deal with Luka to pair him with Tatum. And when you look at AD and Jaylen Brown, I think in the hierarchy of NBA players currently, AD is a little bit higher than JB, but JB's 3 to 4 years younger than AD. And let's just make it a pick. That's all they got was 1 pick. Let's just make it a pick. Would that have been JB's your guy?
Come on, man. Like, really gonna make me answer this? Like, obviously I would trade Jaylen Brown for Luka Doncic. Like, but I don't think Jaylen is the same level as AD. And like they're not. I think AD is a clear-cut top 10 player. You could make the argument he's a top 8 player. Jaylen's a top 15.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Like, he's like the 15th best guy in the league, and they play different positions. The Mavs don't necessarily need a Jaylen Brown. But thank you for putting me on the spot with that. But I think anybody would trade Jaylen Brown for Luka Doncic straight up.
Right. That was just, trying to work the Celtics angle into this and kind of make you a little uneasy. But it's to the just point of what else could have been out there if you just threw out a secret memo or something like.
Right.
Here's the thing. They did this all supposedly like in secret. No one else knew. And even some of the tweets coming out that like Mavericks front office people, like non-Nico Harrison, the owner had to sign off on it. So other than that, nobody knew before that, supposedly. So like everyone's furious. Everyone's like blindsided by this. So if you're going to take it that far, like, and you just like, are you just determined February 6th, by February 6th, I'm making this happen. Why not take 3 days where it doesn't have to drag out? You're just doing the silent auction style, like it just begs the question, like, what else could have been out there? And so I use that Jaylen example just as like, would that have even been a conversation that he shoots a text to Brad? Like, hey man, don't tell anybody, but I'm definitely moving Luka in 2 days. So what do you think? And
yeah, I just think that the Mavs, like me, I'm going to in or out, right? Would you be in? I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. What's like the most egregious level of like crime somebody in Dallas could commit as like vengeance on Nico Harrison. Like, I honestly think people are going to get like violent, man.
I mean, I hope there's no
Like
violence,
vandalism.
but I feel like some Billy Madison flaming poop on the doorstep, like that's in play. Like I think that's okay.
I think severe vandalism could happen. Like if I'm,
it could. I hope not, but
I'm not
with,
advocating for it. I'm not
Yeah.
advocating for it. I'm just like honestly thinking these Mavs fans are so angry, dude. They're so, and they should be. Like they just, it's almost as bad as the Red Sox trade and Mookie Betts.
Oh God, let's not rehash that. That's
it's like it's pretty bad, man.
But to that effect, like it's been really hard to get back into the Sox for now, what, 5 years basically, or 4 years? I forget how long it's been since they traded Mookie.
It's gonna drive throngs of Mavericks fans out of the arena. They're not gonna want to watch this team. Luka was their guy. Luka was their guy, and he's a top 3 guy in the league. You can't trade him.
He was the perfect transition from Dirk to Luka. Like the torch was passed so perfectly, right? So perfectly. You handed it off from one generation of Mavs fans to another generation of Mavs fans. And, you know, like you just spit in their face. This is what you did, right? You spit in their face with this trade. It's just tough, man. All this time removed, it still makes no sense.
It's a proverbial spit in the face. So I think it would be justified for someone to spit in Nico Harrison's face.
All right, you got anything else?
I can see it.
You got anything else for in or out here, Greg?
No, I was just going to talk about the Luka trade.
All right, let's go to stat of the week, and then we'll wrap this up because we've done 2 podcasts today. We've been putting in overtime, and we're going to be back Tuesday after the Celtics and Cavs. Now that we're reinvigorated, Celtics are back, baby. 15 minutes. That's all it took. We're back in. We're not turning our TVs off. We're coming back. Celtics, Cavs, Tuesday. We will have a live post-game show after that. Then they play the new look Mavs on Thursday. Friday morning, we're going to be back at it. Friday, coffee and C's. We'll review any more moves that happen on the deadline the day before, as well as recap that game for you. And then Saturday night at Madison Square Garden, working on setting up a preview of that podcast as well with some of our Knicks friends out there. Stat of the week. So I had a couple different stats, Greg, that were going to be like alarming things with the Celtics, because that's just kind of where we were going, of whether it was fourth quarter free throws or clutch free throws or all these guys that seem to have their career high nights against the Celtics. Like, what is happening? But we're feeling pretty good after the end of that Celtics game, so I'm not going to go there. So I found another one that I want to do, and this is part of the game tonight where I think Sam Hauser deserves a little bit of a shout out because he's been having a little bit of a renaissance, a little bit of coming back to form. And hopefully he had a couple games off a little while ago. The back's getting in shape. But last 5 games for Sam Hauser before tonight, 3 of 6 from 3, 2 of 3 from 3, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 of 7 from 3, 3 of 6 from 3. And then tonight he kept it going, 4 of 7 from 3. And, you know, earlier when I mentioned it really felt like that defense where, yeah, you might get a shot, but you're going to feel somebody. And we're going to hustle into the lane, back out to the 3-point line. You're going to get a contest every time. There was at least 1 or 2 back-to-back possessions where I was looking at Sam. I was like, Sam is busting his ass right now. And that made me so happy because he had a couple shots early in this game that you could tell he felt good, just didn't go in. He got a couple to go late. Like I said, ended up going 4 of 7, getting back to that elite shooter, which is really going to help this team with, you know, this prolonged slump they've been in. But seeing Sam in his kind of energy and his hustle and effort on the defensive end, I think is almost as big as this streak of shooting that he has right now. So my stat of the week is just Sam Hauser might be back.
Yeah, and it's good to see because without those big 3-pointers, he said he had 4 of them. I think 3 of them may have come in that comeback. So Sam Hauser being able to be a reliable 3-point shooter again, and not just reliable, but a dead eye 3-point shooter from the corners.
3 for 4 in the second half. Yeah,
3-4 in the second half, and he's also shooting those things like in transition from 27 feet. That's a shot that he didn't really have in his arsenal. It's nice to see him kind of expanding that range out, and the Celtics looking for him in transition. My stat of the week, Will, 25. Can you guess why?
25. I don't know. Tell me why.
Luka Doncic is 25 years old.
I was trying to think. I was racking my brains. Like, I know this is going to do something with the big news of the day. Like, I just don't know what it is. But yeah, 25 years old, man.
Crazy.
That's it.
You don't do that. You don't trade a 25-year-old superstar in his prime.
Well, it's gonna be one hell of a week, guys. Yeah, definitely stay locked in. I would assume there's no more emergency podcasts. Oh, one thing I will say, Greg. Well, I meant to bring this up and I forgot to. Is another thing I learned during the Celtics game tonight. And thank God we won, because maybe gives it a glimmer of hope. If at all it's possible to go get Yabusele, bring me Yabusele. Like, unbelievable game from the Dancing Bear. And it really feels like what he brings is what I really feel like this team needs. Like, I really like I know we were like, would you give up Jordan to give up Jordan Walsh, give up a first round pick? I know that's probably extreme based off, like a one game knee jerk reaction. But if you're close to a championship, Yabu's got juice. Yabu's got some energy to him. Like, he's hungry. He's back in the NBA for the first time in, whatever it is, 3-4 years. If at all it's possible. And we really needed to win this game so we can start to get, maybe the Sixers lose another game or two before the deadline. They're like, let's just get something, because, he's going to walk. We're not going to pay him. We got all these other, priorities as far as what our payments look like. You can't say the Sixers won't deal with the Celtics. Jaden Springer came over from the Sixers. So
right.
I was reinvigorated as to how much I want Yabusele, and I might even knee-jerk reaction overpay a little bit to get it done.
Does he replace Al Horford in the rotation?
Another thing I was going to bring up, Al Horford didn't play in the second half. No Al Horford.
Hasn't been looking good.
It hasn't been great. He's missed a lot of bunnies. Like, the 3-point shot's not going. So that's to that point. He's coming. Al Horford's coming off the books next year. And so if Brad Stevens is looking at it like maybe Yabu can give us a jolt this year, and maybe he's the guy that we give Al Horford's $10 million to next season. I mean, there's a whole tax issue with everything with the Celtics as always. But yeah, man, I think for this year, like, I might consider trying to make Philly an offer that they really got to think about. Like, you guys are the 11 seed. You really want to not take like a late first round pick and Jordan Walsh?
You really think you're beating us in a 7-game series? Like,
right. Like, come on now. Yabu's not coming back next year. Like, if I was Brad Stevens watching that game, I'm at least putting an offer out there they really got to think about, because I think he would play meaningful minutes for the Celtics team and would be an impact guy. So I really want the Dancing Bear back. That's another part of this game that I leave with tonight. And who knows, Greg, we'll know by Friday morning if that's going to be a reality or not. So we will have to see. Hopefully we're done with emergency podcast this week. But again, schedule for the rest of the week. Tuesday, Cavs, Celtics, 1 seed in the East, 2 seed in the East. Celtics trying to make up some ground before we hit the All-Star break. We will be live after that game, immediately following the end of that game. Thursday, Celtics, new look Mavs. That's going to be fun. Hopefully AD is cleared and playing in that one. Gives a little bit of extra juice to what doesn't really feel like an NBA Finals rematch anymore. But it's going to be an interesting matchup to see how that all looks. And then Friday morning, we will cover that game. We'll cover the trade deadline. And then hopefully before we get to Saturday night against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, we will have a preview of that for you, likely dropping either Friday or Saturday morning. Yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Hell of a day. 2 podcasts for the boys here. Shout out to Alex, the video intern, been crushing the content game. So please make sure you guys are following us across all of our social medias. And make sure you're following Alex. He's also tagged in a lot of the videos that we have here. So make sure you guys are following him individually for his work as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. Greg, any final thoughts before we send this out and come back strong on a Tuesday night?
No final thoughts.
I gotta stop asking. You don't have any more final. You used to have final thoughts. What happened to you? You have no more final thoughts anymore. All right, we're getting out of here. This is a doubleheader. We'll see you guys later. Peace.